Welcome to Splash 2024 Black Diamond Advisory YouTube podcast. That is a mouthful. Welcome to this episode. My name is Cameron Lackpour, and I have with me my co-host,
Celvin, Kattookaran.
And we're delighted to have our very special guest,
Peter Fugere,
Hello,
Chief
Peter.
Solutions Officer at OneStream Software. Thank you guys for having me.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Fantastic. We were just talking before the recording. You hired us.
I did.
Yes.
I did.
Your greatest professional mistake, right?
I did. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I actually remember the first time you guys came to, I think it was to a Splash. It might have been Vegas.
It was 20.
And it
was Vegas, yeah.
And it was Tiffany
Yes.
Ma
Yep.
came up.
Yep.
And she was like in a panic, a cold sweat. Do you know who's here? I'm like, I have no idea. And it's Cameron and Celvin here. They have a podcast for S-Space. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, you got to talk to me. You got to talk to him.
She got me the job.
Well, you know
Absolutely.
what? Like, it was a great hire. We're glad to have you guys. It was a big thing. I think OneStream early on, like our fastball was, with Bob's background and Tom with the upstream sort of angle, like data integration and consolidation. And intentionally, the company went after consolidation work early on because, there's so few people that do complex consolidation really well. And then as we were pivoting and we were building out and doing more planning stuff to get you guys to come on board was actually really cool, because not only did we get people who knew the space, but I felt like, there was a lot of good feedback and contributions you guys made that enhanced and developed. And now now we get to do some really cool planning stuff. So I get involved with that now. It's fun.
Glad to hear.
Yeah. So it worked out well for us too.
So let's talk about your background a little bit. We were just, again, for the audience that'll never see this, we were talking about how small this industry is, how many people have worked with one another as they change jobs throughout their career, how so many of us came from Oracle into the OneStream space. So what is your backstory?
Yeah, I got out of the Navy, and I had an idea in my head. I wanted to be a consultant, but I had no idea what that was. Had a job, started at Investors Bank and Trust, where I bled highlighters and did reconciliation. But little did I know data reconciliation was going to be my future for the next 30 years or however long, tying out numbers. But I went to Northeastern, and I was in a book. This is a true story. I was in a book. They stopped at like the letter Q or so. They were looking for an Hyperion Enterprise administrator. And I went in and I was killing the interview. And this really sweet guy, Floyd Carmen, he was the controller at John Hancock. He goes, have you ever heard of Hyperion Enterprise? And I wanted so bad to go, of course I have. And I must have looked like so disappointed because I said no. And he leans across, it's the job interview. He leans across and touches it. He goes, it's okay, it's all right. I was like, I must have looked like really like distraught when they had to say no.
That's funny.
But they hired me, and that was part of their demutualization project, and I got to work with Hyperion Enterprise. And then at the end of the project, after a year and a half, I knew more Hyperion people than I knew John Hancock people. And so I went to go work at Hyperion, and I made so many brilliant people were there that I got to work with, guys like Bob Nelson and things like that, and Chris Barbieri, and some really great people. And and I just got to work there, got involved with HFM, just kept working hard. Next thing you know, I'm writing the book with HFM. Next thing you know, I'm leaving all of that behind to go to OneStream. And now I look back, I left, I think I was employee like 9 or 11, like in that range at OneStream. So, it was like looked like your local accountant's office above a sporting goods store on Main Street back then. Now, I think most of the people at Hyperion are in our sphere now, and it's kind of gratifying to see,
It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Peter, for the audience who don't know about the Architect Factory, you are the man behind it.
Yeah.
What is the Architect Factory and what is planned for it?
My job at OneStream's always been to grow the community. So when I came on board, it was first to start like a services team and run services. But to that end too, like we'd work with partners, we'd develop documentation, we'd share our methodology, we'd do all those things. And so, I think maybe like it's been like 4 or 5 years now. I was able to pivot away from sort of the day-to-day work with projects and do stuff like help the GES team. the global services team, build out content for online training and the certification exam, start the OneStream press book. I do my own podcast, you know, all kinds of things to support the community and help it grow. And, you know, it's more than just knowledge too. You want people to feel like they're part of something, you know what I mean? And that they're, you know, they know other people and there's a connection. You know, just like any company, you know, for consultants, we're all spread out. Yeah. And so it's tough to have that like network, that bonding, you know, so if we can support that, we try to do events at things like Splash and, you know, get a little OneStream certification pin or something fun and yeah, sort of build that out.
There's no author's pin.
You know what? Now that you've said it, and I'm an author as well, I'm going to make that happen.
Good. Excellent. Excellent.
Are we going to see an evangelist track with OneStream?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, I haven't thought of that, and I mean, but that would be pretty interesting.
Because there are a lot of people who do that.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
It's like how we all were in the ACE program.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were all aces at one point.
Yep. No, when I left, that's when they came up with the former ACE program.
Yes, ACE alumni, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. But no, I think that'd be great to have an evangelist track, and I think that's something too that as the company's grown, like it's hard to see from like, you know, how far we've come to where there are like people who are evangelists and think of the product that way. And like
it is big now.
It's hard to believe, you know, because it's like it's grown so much and there's so much, you know. And Tom's keynote today, I mean, where the product's going, it's pretty impressive.
What did excite you the most?
Well, I've been working a lot with CPM Express.
Okay.
And that's been my baby. And so I mean, it was great that it was #1 on the list. I appreciate that. But I'm really excited about that and what we're doing. And I think it's going to be game changing for a lot of these, you know, implementations where clients don't have the appetite for a bigger implementation for a number of reasons. They have evolving complexity. They don't have the budget. Sometimes they're just really lean organizations. You know, we have a couple we're working with now that the controller is the admin. You know, he's a controller and he's trying to administrate. And you think of like a bigger project, like you know, take any big implementation, try not to throw any client names out there, but any big implementation, you usually have like a full-time administrator, you know, supporting the application. And then, you know, here we don't, you know, and so the idea is basically with CPM Express is we took some of our best solutions from the marketplace, pre-built as much of an application as we could, and came up with an approach to accelerate the implementation.
Okay.
And our first project, and we have a lot of work left to do, you know, but I'm still going to take a victory lap. First project, we did a mini design on day one. We built out the metadata, brought over any of the KPIs. There weren't very many. Workflow, security, loaded 7 years of history, and by Friday we started data reconciliation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it offers consolidation, basic budget and forecast, and account rec. So yeah, I think it's a lot of value for, you know, not a lot of commitment cost, and I think it's going to change a lot of these smaller implementations. So I'm really excited about that.
Excellent.
It's more about geared towards the mid-market and lower
commercial. Yeah, absolutely.
Commercial.
Absolutely. And OneStream is a really powerful tool, and I think if you start talking about everything it can do, yeah, it could be a little overwhelming. Like, but they see the value. It's just aspirational for them. They want to get there. So how do we get them started on the path, a good path forward? And that's what we're trying to do.
So AI was part of the keynote as well. I don't remember the year of Splash, but I can remember Tom on the stage talking about, I guess, his first take at machine learning with IBM Watson.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, this is really hard. I'm just sitting there going, my God, he just said this was really hard.
Yeah.
It took several years to make it something beyond what I guess was kind of a science experiment.
And when Tom says it's hard.
Yeah, you know it's really,
it
really
must
hard.
be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's impressive. And I think what I'm most impressed is, from that time, his vision of where he's taken it and where it's gone. And then the demo today, you're just typing in questions and it's finding data for you and explaining variances based on transactions. I was like, wow, that
is pretty incredible.
Really impressive.
Yep.
Really impressive.
The generations after us are going to have an entirely different relationship with data analysis.
Yeah, maybe
We'll,
unemployed.
we'll get part of it, but they're the ones, right? It's really the generation behind us, or in front of us. I'm not sure which one that is. That's going to see this just absolutely transformative and different view of things. It's going to be exciting.
I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting to see what we're doing. I think it's exciting to see it as such a core part of our platform. I mean, and again, too, if I go back to that first day when I sat and I saw the product and I was impressed then with what it could do, and look at it now, even just the look and feel of it, everything about it, it's changed so much. It's impressive.
Yeah, the innovation is never stopping.
It has not stopped. It's accelerated, it feels like, this year. I mean, Tom had 12 major announcements to roll out. I mean, it's sort of accelerating, which is crazy.
The reason I switched to OneStream, one was just struggling with the vendor that I was working with. Just from a working perspective, it was getting harder and harder. But you talk about a vision. I believe I sat in on a session on Task Manager. I think that was the product. I don't actually remember what it was anymore, but I looked at it and I said, this doesn't suck. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Where has this been all my life? It was really sort of just like epiphany moment where I'm going, I have to get into this now. And I did. It was to work with a company that was still kind of a startup at the time, and we're talking 2017, so it was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
It was so exciting.
Yeah.
It was such an exciting place to be. It's still an exciting place to be. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming because there are so many changes and we have to keep track of them and figure out which ones we're going to do and which ones are going to be beyond us. But it's a tribute to all of you that you can keep this going because the pace must be blistering internally.
I think it's interesting. I mean, we've grown so much, so there's so many new people that have come in. But I still think but I think the partners too have done an amazing job too. I mean, they've been as much a part of the growth story as anything else too. I mean, the number of implementations they're doing and the clients they're bringing in, it's like they're kind of an extension of everything that's happening. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still in a world where I can remember when our CFO was washing the toilets at once a week in our offices. So like to see where we are now, it's like I feel like it's unbelievable. Yeah.
We were both you were in the services group too.
I was.
Yeah, we both were in the services group.
Yeah.
And I remember the kind of the attitude was, partners are there, but they're subordinate or they're secondary to the internal services group. And I remember thinking, that's not the way it works, right? I mean, the way is that's the vendor, right? That's the product team that does the implementations. But there's a whole ecosystem of partners.
Yeah, and I think it's tough. I mean, when I was at Hyperion, we used to call it co-opetition with the partners. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's something to it too. I also think it's the nature of consultants.
So it's a healthy competition.
It's fine. It's a healthy competition. But I think the nature of consulting too is, even among other partners, like we know the most, and there's that little competitive thing. Yeah. And so I think you have some of that, and you have some of we're the vendor, and we used to have that at Hyperion too with the partners there. So there's a little bit of a rivalry and stuff too. But I think Stephanie Cramp, who runs Alliances, does a amazing job. Yeah, she does a really good job, and she does a really good job reminding the key people, like, hey, they're working with us, so I think in the services group, you get some of that. It's natural, but having somebody like Stephanie just sort of gently remind, like we're all actually all swimming in the same direction here. It's good.
Yeah, today's competitor is tomorrow's coworker.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And by the way, too, the goal with services, the OneStream services team, was always that a lot of these people would leave and go to other places. And I mean, just in my time, and even some of the people, I could tell you 3 or 4 people on the OneStream team they've worked for me at other places. I know one guy that's quit on me 4 times, and I'd hire him back still. He always comes back, and it's like, so it's not a bad thing. It's, sometimes people need a change or they want to go try something else, and that's fine too. And so a lot of these people can go to partners, and that helps grow the OneStream community. So back to my point about growing the community, and even Architect Factory, one of the ideas was, what are ways we can help create more architects? And it's every way we can share knowledge. So, like the stuff with One Community or the books or the podcast, like everything we can do to support that. That's kind of in a way, I still have the same job I had since day one, grow the community, help grow the community.
It's funny we are talking about this. Yesterday, I'm having a side conversation at the demo booth, and someone was saying, you guys are now a competition to the vendor itself because we are also building software on top of software.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. The old vendor that I used to work with, the comment that he made was, we as a software vendor cannot go out and create everything that you guys need.
Yeah.
That's where the partners come in. You guys can go ahead and develop the stuff that's...
I could throw out a couple examples, but I mean, the truth is like there's specific IP that goes into some of these solutions too. Take like something as common as like a tax provision solution. So you could develop something in OneStream. You could have a great tax provision solution, but tax law changes. There's updates constantly. Things evolve. Are you going to do compliance or not? All these sort of things. And then I have to have a team to support it. So now I'm creating inside the software vendor. Well, do I want to own and create a whole tax provision ecosystem? Mm-hmm. Or do I want my partners to help do that? And I think that's really, that's where, if you look at companies like a Salesforce or, where they're letting people develop something like a DocuSign, and then that sort of takes off on its own.
Yeah.
If there's an ecosystem that's out there helping people sign documents, who would have thought? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great product. It's a really impressive product, but like technically, like it's a PDF that you're signing. Like, is that, and it's a multi-billion-dollar company. But there's an ecosystem for that. And I think that's, working with the partners, focus on the platform and let people own the IP and develop the solution. I think that's kind of where hopefully we see a lot more. And today I get that sales planning solution looked fantastic that they showed during the keynote. So
excellent. So in the spirit of this idea of an ecosystem, let's talk about the books. I mean, we're authors of, I guess, the only planning book still.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of books? So I ask this because I've had people say, I don't read books any longer, right? Books are like the last century. We don't care.
Yeah.
And yet there's this imprint, like we've worked with the publisher.
Yeah.
You ran it essentially, right?
Yeah.
What led to that?
Well, I mean, honestly, the company, the product grew so fast. There was so much early enthusiasm, and we didn't have the resources to really put behind things like writing out tons of documentation. You know what I mean? We got to a point where at a company, the product was evolved enough that we want to have a certification exam, and we need to have better documentation. And you got to have the documentation. You can't have a certification exam without go read this and now get tested on it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it was like this problem we had. We had to take a step back and say, all right, let's write a book, and then we at least have like a tome of knowledge we can hand out to people, and they can get smarter about it. And then we have some baseline to test, and then so I'd done the McGraw-Hill, I think,
the Oracle Press books.
Yep.
Right.
So I had some experience with that and knew an approach, but instead of me trying to just go through and do it, I really went around and I tried to pick who I thought were the people who owned that piece of knowledge. Like if I was on a project and I needed to know security, mm-hmm. I was going to call Tony. Or if I needed to know sort of the support questions, I was going to call Jeff Jones. And I really went around and sort of picked some really bright people at OneStream. Some people, weren't comfortable writing a book. Some people couldn't wait to do it. And we sort of divided up into chapters. And that's why, and for us too, I think it was it was sort of like a nice way to recognize where we were as a company even then. At the end of every chapter, there's a little personal story someone has. And the cover, though now we have a new marketing thing, but the cover at the time was every splash event that we went. So the first 5 books cover a splash event that in order where we went through. So it was a little bit of a memory lane for us, but then a way for us to kick that off. And as we were doing the book, that's when Bev came on board, and she helped build out the certification exam and really build out the education services for us.
And we should mention this is the Foundation Handbook.
That's right.
For people who haven't already bought
Yep.
it. I want you to know that I bought it on the first day that it was available.
Oh, I appreciate
I bought
that.
it from Barnes & Noble, I think, had it a day before Amazon. I bought it on Barnes & Noble. So there was no way I wasn't going to get
I'm
that.
still working, so it wasn't quite Harry Potter. I didn't. yeah. I don't really. That's
So
not the
are we.
revenue. Yeah, I'm not, a billionaire for my books. It's not going to be
Books are on a path to riches.
OneStream section of Universal.
I guess we kind of exceeded our expectations. Like, it's still in front. Yeah.
P8, right, is the name of the publishing company. So I did 2 Oracle books.
Yeah.
And if I made like 1,100 bucks out of each book with like 17 different co-authors across the 2 books, I was thrilled. I guess this is a suggestion to our audience. If you think you have a book within you and OneStream approves it, I wouldn't call it a path to riches, but you could probably take out your significant other for a couple of nice dinners.
Yeah, a couple of pizzas and a case of beer.
So let's talk about something that doesn't earn any money. And by that, I mean the podcast.
Yeah.
Our little podcast, I think, was earlier than OneStream's, but it is different in focus.
Yep.
Talk to us about what your vision for that is.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That was something that the team from the GES team came to me with. So they had, believe it or not, there's a couple of guys who have experience in TV and radio, and they really thought this was a way to reach people. And we really wanted to try to, like I said, going back to grow the community. How can I reach out to people? For example, one of the big things around design in OneStream is around the data unit. And we had documentation on it, and we had the blueprint, and we had, we did all this stuff, and like people weren't just reading it.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's try another way to reach them. We do presentations at Splash, we do that. All right, let's try another way to reach them, and thought, well, maybe the podcast would be a good way to start. And so we had like a design series was how we got started. And we'd start to kick around like design topics, and we bring people in and talk about it. But with the books going too, we said, well, we'll do an author series. And, people, listen, it's a lot of work you put into a book. And you're right, you're not going to be rich doing it. But it is gratifying to do. And you do have a sense of accomplishment doing it. And it does feel like a professional mile marker.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so the idea of like, all right, let's celebrate that with them. You have them on a podcast and say, what was it like to write the book? Maybe that's interesting or not. I don't know. But I think for, maybe people who are thinking about writing a book, and it's certainly for the people who are on, to just talk about the experience, I think was nice. And now we're doing stuff like, we're doing what I'm calling an industry spotlight. So trying to focus with, partners on certain industries they're working with, and like what's interesting, how is OneStream helping them in there? So, I mean, again, the focus with everything I do with OneStream is this reaching people? Is this making people think about OneStream? Do they feel more connected? People are investing their careers, their livelihood. They're supporting their families on this. I want them to feel appreciated and heard and seen and everything else. So, yeah, getting them on a podcast and talking about it, for me, it's like a fun.
It is fun.
It's more fun than blogging. We figured that out. Way more fun than blogging.
I tried starting a blog, and I'm like, I just don't have it in me.
It's a lot.
I can get on a microphone and talk for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's much easier.
It is much easier and fun, as are these.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time, but one last closing topic. In 3 years, I won't even go out 5 years. In 3 years, where do you see OneStream? What is your both your vision of it and your hopes and dreams?
Geesh. That's an interesting question. I mean, honestly, I think I can't imagine where I think the product's going to be. But honestly, I mean, if we just continue to do all the things we're doing, we're going to get to another place I can't imagine, And I do feel like every one of these steps, there's some point where I look back and go, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And, the last time we were in Vegas and I came in and there was OneStream logo on the blackjack table felt. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. It's great. They had little TVs above the urinals in the men's room with our logo on it. I was like, this is crazy. I was blown away. And now I come here and see the signage and, Tim's done a great job. The new CMO's done a great job, like with all the marketing and everything. It blows me away. So in 3 years, I mean, you know, geesh, you know, I can't believe it. I mean, the most interesting things of me, CPM Express is fun. You know, I'd love to see 500, 1,000 CPM Express customers by then. I'd love that. We'll see how that goes. But the stuff with AI is so, you know, like kind of shocking to see. You know what I mean? Like how smart it is and where it's going and the direction. I think that'd be really interesting product-wise. But yeah, you know, you said it before, it's been kind of a wild ride. I'm just sort of hanging on.
as best we all can. Okay, with that, thank you so much, Peter, for coming and being on our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.